I've been asked a few times to kind of give a show and tell on threading a barrel. I got a 17 HMR from a customer. They want to thread basically a brand new gun that hadn't even been fired. They want half 28 so they can mount a suppressor. So I'm going to kind of start at the beginning. First thing we have to do is tear it apart. Bear with me. These rifles are about as simple as it gets. You gotta knock a roll pin out so you can take that other anchor point off. Alright. One difficulty out the way. Basically, the reason I'm stripping all this off of here so it'll fit in my through the spindle, and I can center it in the headstock and then center it in the spider on the rear. Make sure that I have absolute concentricity with the muzzle and the bore center, especially on these little rimfire suppressors. You can get baffle strikes real easy, so it's pretty critical that you get all of this out of the way so that you can have enough room for adjustment. Make sure it's absolute dead center. Alright, I'm going to reposition the camera and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is going to be an overhead view. I think it's probably the easiest way for everyone to see what happens while you're threading a barrel. Trust me, I am nowhere near a professional quality videographer, but I will do my best to give you something worth looking at. First thing we have to do is get the rear as close as possible on the spider. That's going to take some maneuvering. It's kind of hard to film that at the same time as filming the chuck in. So let me get this as close as I can get it, and I'll be back when I have it pretty much centered. Alright, so before you get to the very, very fine detail of centering the bore, you have to get kind of close. So I usually go off of the OD of the barrel and try to get it as close as possible. Before I try to get down into doing the tints with a indicator in the actual bore, because sometimes just getting this thing in the chuck with my little copper shims, you gotta have 7 hands, and you got to hold your mouth just right. And so getting it in close enough to the center to start doing the fine work is not always possible. You can tell it's a long ways off because you can see it without even using an indicator. But I'll get it zeroed on the OD, and then I'm going to use a 1/10 of a 1,000th mic with a probe going inside the muzzle to make sure I have perfect muzzle alignment, because if you don't, you'll get a baffle strike. And most customers would frown on that. You know, I would think anyway. So this really is the most tedious part of it, is trying to get everything perfectly centered. Hey, you gotta hold your mouth just right. We're down to 1.5 on the OD, so that should get me close enough . When you're inside, you have to remember that there's lands and grooves. Trying to see if I can get to where that dial isn't such a glare. It's still kind of hard to see. Okay, you can kind of see it. Yeah, I don't think I have enough tension on it. Let's see. Now what you got to try to do is balance it out, because your lands and grooves are going to give you some bounce of about 0.03 between the land and the groove. Actually, that looks like it's around 2. But as long as your bottom measure and your top measure are within 1/1000th of each other, then you know you're in the center. And then again, that all depends on the quality of the rifling. But I can see bottom to top, I'm about 1/2,000th. From that point to the next one is about 1/2. So it would be very hard to get it any better than that. Make sure everything's snug. I know there's other methods that people use with a range rod, and yeah, you can shove a piloted range rod down the bore, but for 17, that would be I have yet to find a 0.17 pilot on a range rod, so you kind of don't have that option here. It may seem like it's pointing, it's sticking out from the chuck further than it should, but the only way to have a surface to move against with the spider is to have it that far out. And what we're about to do and the thickness of that barrel, I seriously doubt I'm going to have any push-off. So first process is to get it to size. Major diameter on a 1/2-28 is 498, so we're going to get it to 498, and all of the prints that you would look at for 1/2-28 show that the shoulder is 600 away from the muzzle. So we're gonna go 600. We're gonna cut a groove. We're gonna base the rest of our cut the size off of that groove. Trying to find a wrench to tighten up my rig up of a dial indicator here. I don't know how many other machinists really trust the dials on their machine, but I for one prefer a dial indicator just because I trust it. I don't ever think that the dial is going to be accurate enough. Alright, so here we go. Setting my feed and my speed. Just like I was saying earlier, I don't trust the dial. Well, the dial slipped and now I have lost my zero. Alright, here we go again. Go 600, we're going to cut a groove. It'll tell us where to stop. Come back, find my zero. Take about a 20. And then we'll measure it and see how far we have to go. Give us an idea of what we're working with here. And we're at, wow, 728. So I'm going to take a couple of hundred off and get closer to size, and then I'll come back. Okay, so now we're down to, I don't know if I can get that to focus or not. We're down to 550, and I need to be at 498. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a, just for safety, I'm going to take a 40 thousandths, remeasure. It's actually 20 aside, which gives you a 40 thousandths total. And remember, I'm trying to get to 498. I'm gonna get to 498. major diameter for the thread, so I have to get the 498. Let's see. The thing about this barrel is not fluted, so if I take too much in the first pass, I got plenty of barrel to work with. Of course, no gunsmith wants to admit that, but every one of us has had to cut that little stub off and start over because we went too far on the first cut. If you have a fluted barrel, it will kind of stick out like a turd in a punch bowl if you get it wrong, because you end up cutting into the flutes. Okay, most people don't like that. Okay, so now we're at 512. So I need to take 14 total to get the 498. So let's see. That would be, say, 10, 12. I'll sell just a little breathing room. We should be on size. And there we are, 498. Alright. The undercut, according to the print, is 40 thousandths. So we're going to go back in, and I'm going to take that undercut, put a little chamfer on the end, so I don't have a hard shoulder to bump my threading tool against. That's how we move stuff around so much. I'm going to check the parallel. Make sure I'm still parallel with the work. You don't want a leaning thread. Makes it kind of hard to screw a suppressor on there with a leaning thread. Right. That looks pretty good. Let me get my hat and my beard out of the way. Checking parallel. Alright. I'm good with that. Make sure we've got our vertical right. Or what some people like to call tool height. I like to call it the vertical. Alright. Give ourselves a mark so we can do a scratch pass. Set my speed. That'll do. Alright. Set a thread pitch. Make our scratch pass real quick here. It's more than a scratch pass. Oh well. It'll be good. Verify that pitch real quick. If you'll notice, my compound's not at 29 degrees. I know there's kind of two schools of thought on how to thread. Some people say drive the compound in at 29 degrees so that you're only using one flank of the tool. And if you have a lathe that doesn't have enough mass to it, sometimes you have to do that. But I've found with this one, I can just drive the tool straight in. I get a nice clean thread, and I can leave the compound at 11 degrees so that I can do the crown without having to move anything. And I'm thinking we're pretty much on the money. Alright, so here we go. moving some tools around and we'll get right back to it. Alright, so now we've got the threading done. This thing won't focus very well, but we have a thread protector that we're going to put on it. I do a quick little cold blue job on it so that it won't flash rust, and reassemble the rifle and deliver it to the customer. Thanks for watching.